Welcome everyone, this is Simon from Yellow Cat Performance and welcome to the podcast. So, if you have a look at today's podcast title, we are titled New to Running, and this is episode number 3 of the Becoming Yellow podcast. No, episode number 4. We've been going on for I'm not going to say we've been around forever, but 4 episodes in and we're still creating content. I'm loving it. Just a disclaimer for you guys today. As you can see, I am not affiliated with BPN in any way, shape or form. I just love their content. I love their products. I love their mission. I just love everything. So, yeah, go one more hat, BPN top. We just love it. I wouldn't mind being affiliated with them, but at this point in time, we're not. But yeah, so, new to running. Running over the last couple of years has been growing massively. Like, especially here in Australia, like, I don't think running was a thing like 4 or 5 years ago. And just over the last, couple of years, we've just shot up. There's running events everywhere. There probably always was running events, I'm not going to lie. But running events probably weren't being sold out. We now have World Major. UTA has now joined the UTMB World Majors, so 2 World Majors if you're into the trail running scene, like I am. And just, yeah, the running bug has definitely been caught here in Australia, and I'm part of it. Obviously, the running hype has definitely progressed and stemmed from everyone trying to live happier, healthier lives. And I mean, I'm all for it. I don't have any issues with it. But in the grand scheme of things, it also is the easiest sport to get into. Like, you can just walk out the front door and you can run. Although it can become quite pricey once you've caught the bug, because that's when you go out and buy all your new race shoes, sign up for all these races and events, fly halfway across the world to run a half marathon or a full marathon or a trail race. It's definitely the most accessible, easiest to get into, but it can become quite pricey. I only jumped on the running bandwagon about 16 months ago. I did try running previously before, like maybe 5 years ago during COVID. When COVID started, I tried to run and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't fall in love with it then. But looking back in hindsight, the reason is because I didn't learn how to run properly. So 16 months ago, I was trying to lose weight, trying to become fitter, healthier for my family. And so I sort of backed down a little bit and learned how to run properly. And since learning how to run properly, I've fallen in love. I've caught the bug. I'm a runner for life now. Pretty much. Nothing's stopping me. I went from a full couch potato to an avid runner, running marathons, half marathons, trails. And in 2025, at the end of this year, I'm going to be running my first ultra distance. We're going to be doing the 50-kilometer Hume and Hovel Ultra. So looking forward to that. More to come with that in the future. But yeah, in this episode, I'm going to be diving into how to start running if you want to either lose weight or just see what all this hype is about. well, because we're getting into race season, I'm going to dive into how to prepare and how to train for your first event, whether it's a 5K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon, whatever it is. I'm going to tell you how to start training for it and how to get into it. How to start running. So, as I mentioned in the little pre-teaser, I only started running 16 months ago, tried to run before that, and it just wasn't something that interested me before. And then when I did try, I wasn't running properly. Now, if you're new to running and you want to learn how to run, you think of it with every other sport, football, rugby league, those kinds of things. You run within the sport. But within that sport, your goals are completely different to endurance running. So your goals on the football field is to run as fast as you can for as long as you can. You want to either win that ball back, or you want to take that ball into the back of the net. Or if you're playing rugby league, you want to catch up to the man with the ball. You want to tackle them. There's a lot of emphasis on speed. And when it comes to the running world, if you're a track runner, then yes, your goal is speed. But, unless you're really training for the Olympics, or you're a young kid growing up, you've got legs on you and you want to try and explore that realm. In those senses, you'll be running hard out, flat out, as fast as you can, training for those types of events. But if you want to run for fitness, if you want to run to get fitter, as the world is getting into this fitness running era, everyone's running 10Ks, half marathons, full marathons. To get into those, you're not running full pelt. And so during COVID, when I tried to start running, that was my first sort of issue that I was unaware of. I walked out the door, started running. And in that run, my goal was to run as hard and as fast as I could. Now, coming off being a couch potato, that's one of the worst things you could do for yourself. And so that was my first mistake when I tried to run in 2020. Tried to run hard, tried to run fast, and I'm going to tell you, I didn't last more than 4 or 5 runs maybe. I gave up. I'm like, yep, running's not for me. I'm not a runner. Went back to gaming and streaming on Twitch and all that kind of stuff. I didn't enjoy it. Then fast forward a couple of years, kids turned 1. My fitness was all the way out the window. I knew something needed to change. So I initially downloaded, and I'll recommend to everyone that asks me, and a couple of people have downloaded it, they enjoy it, download the Nike Run Club app. It's a free app, and within the app you've got a couple of different training plans. Now, I haven't done their 5K, 10K or half marathon training plan because at the time that's not necessarily what I was trying to do. I ended up starting the Get to Know running plan. And the Get to Know running plan was a life sender. I think you start off doing 3 runs a week, and the first 2 weeks, they teach you how to run easy. And if you want to enjoy running, you're not going to enjoy sprinting, being huffed and puffed and struggling with life. So that training plan teaches you how to run easy and teaches you how to take a step back, because you want to enjoy running. And so there will be someone talking in your ear, teaching you how to run. And basically the aim of the game was to run as slow as you possibly could. And you wanted to run at a pace that you could talk. And then it would always just keep reminding you, is like, all right, you think you're running slow? Run slower than that. You're running too fast. Back it off. And in my first, 2 weeks of running, I was like, well, that was easier than I thought. That was quite enjoyable. I think it was my third run and I had run 5Ks and I was like, okay, is this what running is supposed to be? Is it supposed to be this essentially easy? And yes, it is. When you're starting to run, you run slow, you run easy. You run in a way that you can actually enjoy, you can actually think. You want to enjoy the moment. You want to enjoy the process of training. And that really taught me how to run. If you've never run a day in your life, you're wanting to lose weight, you're wanting to get fit, running is a great way to start losing weight and to start, heading towards that process. And if you were like me, you'd be 110 kilos, struggling to walk up the stairs at work, struggling with life in general as it is. So what I would recommend for you, if that is something like you want to get out the door, put your joggers on, and you want to literally jog. I don't want you to run. I want you to jog. And jog as slow as you can. If you can only jog for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is, I want you to jog for that max amount of time. As soon as you start to struggle, as soon as you start to feel your heart rate going up, as soon as you're struggling to breathe, drop it off. And if it's that little barrier where if you go any slower, you actually can't jog or run anymore, then that's when you drop back and you start walking. There is nothing wrong with walking. If that is your goal, to go out, start running, start losing weight, running and walking doesn't matter. You're both expending more energy than you would have been doing previously. So run for 10 seconds if that's all you can do. Walk for 2 minutes. Run again for 10 seconds. Walk for 2 minutes. And basically, that's how you start running. Make it easy for yourself. Make it enjoyable. If all you can do now is run those 10 seconds really, really slowly, and then you need to walk, if you do that, say 3 times a week, in 3-4 weeks' time, that 10 seconds will turn into 30 seconds. The 30 seconds will then build to a minute to 2 minutes. It's all about building your base endurance. If you haven't been running before and you were a couch potato like I was, You need to build the endurance in your lungs. You need to build the endurance in your legs. Just because you struggle now and you can only run 10 seconds now doesn't mean that's going to be you in 3, 4, 5 weeks' time. You will improve. When you run, when you're doing that repetition, your body starts to adapt. It starts to build. It starts to become stronger. Heart rate drops, doesn't have to pump as much blood, doesn't have to spread as much oxygen around because you've built some endurance where your muscles can cope with more and for longer. So start easy, start slow. Enjoy the process. Another good tip and good method is called the Maffetone method. So basically the Maffetone method is taking the number 180 minus your age. So I'm just going to grab my phone because I'm not that great at maths. But for me, if I take 180 minus my age, I'm 27, gives me 153. Now this 153 is essentially your max aerobic heart rate. Your max aerobic heart rate is essentially the max heart rate you can run at where your body uses your aerobic system. Your aerobic system breaks down ATP, which is your energy source, through oxygen. And the byproduct of this oxygen is carbon dioxide. So essentially, if you run in your zone 2 and don't go above your max aerobic heart rate, you'll be running using oxygen as your main source of energy retrieval, and you won't be building any lactic acid. Lactic acid is a byproduct from having to use your anaerobic system, which builds up in your muscles. That's what gives you stiff, sore muscles. If you're just wanting to run to lose weight, then you don't need to run at that hard, fast pace where you tap into your anaerobic system. Enjoy your runs in your aerobic system. Take it easy, take a step back. As long as you're in your aerobic system, you won't build any lactate and your runs will be enjoyable and achievable. But if you're unfit and not used to running and you haven't adapted to running, then at some points you will tip over your max aerobic heart rate. And when you do, that's when your body starts creating lactate. That's when you start struggling to breathe and all those kinds of things. That's when the run becomes unenjoyable. So if you're new to running, run easy. A good way to know that you're running within your max aerobic heart rate in your zone 2 is to make sure you can talk or sing. As long as you can talk, sing without struggling, then it means you're not running too hard and it means you're running in your zone 2. If you're running with a smartwatch or a Garmin, they're pretty handy features. They've got your heart rate on there. But don't be fooled because they're not... Okay. Their reading mechanism is very, very accurate. If you've got your Garmin watch on right now, this is my heart rate 72. If I chuck on hospital grade oximeter onto my same finger, it tells me that my heart rate is 64 and my watch has just dropped down to 61. Now, the oximeter says 61. So, your watches with technology these days are very, very accurate. But I work in a children's hospital. I know how these things work. If you've got a sedated child that's intubated, asleep, not moving, and you put the oximeter on them, you'll have a perfect reading. If you're not looking after that intubated child and they start moving, they start crying, they start crocodile rolling, no kid likes nurses or doctors. This thing does not read your pulse anymore, does not read your oxygen anymore. It's because even though these are very good tools, very good at measuring your oxygen and your heart rate, basically the way it works is it sends infrared red light from one end through your finger to the other end. So the other end's got a receptor. Now, basically, if normal light gets shot into the sensor, if the sensor gets moved or anything like that, it gives a false reading. Now, if I'm running, so like right now, I'm still, the watch is here, it's on, the sensor's reading perfectly. That's why it calibrated with the oximeter. But if I'm running and I don't have this watch skin tight, the watch bounces, it moves, it doesn't read your heart rate correctly anymore. So take these with a grain of salt. If all you're running with is a smartwatch or a Garmin, and you want to make sure you're running your zone aerobic heart rate, I would make sure that you're running at a pace that you can talk. If you can't talk, but your watch says your heart rate's 120, it's not 120. Because then you should be able to talk. What I did when I started running, and that's only because the bug caught me real quick and I enjoyed running, signed up for my first race like almost instantly. I went out and bought a Garmin HRM strap, which is heart rate monitor. That is same accuracy as the watch. Only difference is you wear it around your chest. It's got two sensors. And I don't know exactly how it works, but these sensors pick up your electrical signals from your heart. And just the way the rubber is, it essentially has the ability to still move a little bit, but it still picks up an accurate heart rate. So that's one way to actually keep an eye on what your exact heart rate is while you're running to make sure you're staying in your zone 2. But I wouldn't they are cheap. They're not expensive. I think it was like $100. So if you've got $100 of a disposable income, go out and buy one. It's good to have one, good to know, but it's not necessary. And if money's tight and you're not looking at getting into racing, then there's no need for one. You can work around without it. And also, if you're getting into running, just know that getting out the door should be seen as a win. Don't focus on others. Don't focus on Strava or my mate Benny's running 5 minutes per kilometer. You don't know their history. You don't know what they're training for. You don't know why they're running. So don't look at your 9-minute per kilometer pace and then Benny's 5-minute per kilometer pace, because you're not Benny, you're Simo, and you're trying to lose weight. You're running to lose weight. Or you've just started running. You want to get into racing. But Benny's been running for 10 years. You've been running for a month. He's got a very strong aerobic base. You've got nothing because you've been a couch potato. So definitely, it's good to see other people's runs, good to encourage other people, good to celebrate their runs and their victories, but don't look at it and put yourself down. And if you are Benny and Simo's done a 9-minute per kilometer pace, I've never experienced this, and I hope it doesn't happen within the running community, but don't fucking laugh at Simo's 9-minute per kilometer pace. At least he's getting out there. At least he is trying. At least he's trying to better himself. Let's have a happy, inclusive running community. Let's encourage each other and lift people up. Because, for some people, especially with mental health and all that kind of stuff, it could be a mind game just getting out the door to run. They could be feeling ashamed of their body, feel ashamed about them trying to run, looking at Greg down the street running with a 6-pack, mad as rig, shirtless, and then Simo's here running with a 3XL shirt and fat rolls coming out of the 3XL shirt. Every person's running journey is different, and we shouldn't put other people down for trying to better themselves. So if you're like Simo, don't worry about others, worry about yourself. Enjoy the process, take it easy, and become better and stronger. You will, as long as you stick to it. Science says you will. Another tip, if you're wanting to get into running, if you're an outgoing social person, even if you're not, at least go to a run club once. I'd recommend to go more than once. I'm an introvert. I'm a quiet, I started a fucking podcast. You wouldn't think I'm an introvert, but I'm an introvert. I'm quiet. I'm unsociable. I keep to myself a lot. But I went to a run club that I've been planning to go to for 12 months. Went once, and I actually quite enjoyed it. It's good having a community of people coming together to sweat, to work, to run together as a group, encourage each other, lift people up. It's a very good, run clubs are a very good supportive environment. And I would recommend getting out to your local run club. Run clubs are popping up left, right, and center. I'm sure if you Google or chuck it on Facebook or Instagram, I'm sure there's a couple of run clubs near you. So I'd recommend to at least go try them out. And, by attending them, not only is it a supportive environment, you get lifted up, but it's also, you can make it a commitment. It's like, okay, I want to lose weight. My goal is to run 3 days a week. Going to run club already knocks out one of the runs. If you commit to go to that social event, one of your runs is already done. 2 more runs left in the week. It just makes the journey so much more enjoyable. So go check out your local run club. If you're in Sydney Southwest, head over to Kevy K's Laps Run Club or Sal's Western Sydney Run Club. They're both good. I go when I can. I work a lot of weekends, so I struggle, but I go when I can. But yeah, if you want to get into running, take in these tips. Run slow. Find a purpose to run as well. Are you running to lose weight? Are you running because you want to get into events? Sort of make a commitment to run. Find a reason to run. Finding a reason to run makes the running journey a lot more enjoyable and a lot more fun and better is the words. But yeah, if you want to start running, definitely go slow. If that's the only tip I can give that sticks in your mind, go slow. You will get faster over time. It takes time to build that aerobic base. So just start slow. Now, if you're like me and you want to sign up for your first event, or you have signed up for your first event, are you running Sydney Hoka Half Marathon with me? How do you train for that? I'm going to give you some main principles that I learned within my first 16 months of running. And these are tips and sort of principles that I am applying and are still relevant now, 16 months in, as I'm training for my third half marathon. So, first things first, if money is no issue, find yourself a run coach. Runner, the app, is also a good option, but a run coach will keep you accountable, and just their knowledge from their own experiences will be, money can't buy stuff. So definitely seek out a run coach. If you're like me and money is not dispensable and you don't have money for a run coach, ignore that part and listen to these next few tips that I'm going to give you. When it comes to training for an event, we're talking about your first ever event. If you're training for your first half marathon or for your first marathon, first things first, do not set a time. If it's your first ever running event, your aerobic base is going to be a massive factor into what you can run, even with a 16-week training block. So if it's your first ever running event, do not aim for a time. Get out there and put a time on the board. Put a time on the board. Finish that marathon. Finish that half marathon. That should be, if this is your first running event, that should be your goal, to finish. No time constraints. You just want to finish. Now, in saying that, your second, third, fourth, fifth running event, that is where you start aiming for times. Once you've put that first time on the board, that's when you can aim for better. Simon's personal bests. My one mistake from my first 12 months of running is putting time goals. I don't think I reached any of them. And that has got to do because of my aerobic base endurance prior to these events. So my PB for my 5K is 27:49. My first ever goal was 30 minutes. Took me maybe 8 months to log that 27:49. I thought 30-minute 5K would be easy. It's not. Took me a while. 10K. I thought a sub 1 hour 10K would be a breeze in the park. I've only done one 10K race. It was 103.34. But mate, I struggled. And that was in between 2 half marathons. That was sort of a training for the second half marathon. Yeah, if my goal was 1 hour, I failed. And then you look back on it, you feel like you failed. It demotivates you for the future. So don't set a time goal. Half marathon, PB, 2:28:30. You want to know what I was aiming for? 2 hours. I was aiming for 2 hours for both of them. First one I done 2:45. Second one I done 2:28. Don't set a time goal. And then the last one that's on there, marathon, 6 hours, 30 minutes, and 28 seconds. You want to know what my goal was for that marathon? I was aiming for sub 5 hours, hoping for 4:30. But this was all within my first 12 months of running. I was a couch potato 11 months before running the Sydney Marathon. I had no aerobic base. I built an aerobic base within my first 12 months of running, yes. But say I was running regularly for fitness, say I was a fitter person, say I played longer than 12 minutes in my football games, my aerobic base would have been higher. But I was starting with an aerobic base here. For me to run a sub 5 hour marathon first go, my aerobic base probably had to be here when I started running, but instead it was here. When I ran the full marathon, my aerobic base after 12 months of building was maybe here. So it's stepping stones, and the more you run, the more consistent you stay, the more easy runs you do, the faster you will get better, the stronger your aerobic base will be, and the faster your runs will be. So when it comes to trying to pace your first event, do not set a goal time, because there is a high chance you'll fail. And if you fail, I don't know, you tell me. You know yourself more than me. If you fail, what's that going to do for you? Is that going to demotivate you? Or is that going to make you want to try again and do it next time? I know for me, I'm a very motivated person. I set myself a lot of goals. I want to achieve a lot of things in life. I am a high achiever. So for me, setting those goals and failing did not demotivate me. It just gave me more fuel, more hunger to keep training and go again. But Barry down the road, who maybe it took him a little while to sign up for the event, to train for the event, probably on a subpar training block, wants to run the marathon in 5 hours but runs it in 6.5, he's like, what's the point of running? He demotivates himself, and then he doesn't sign up for that second event, doesn't keep running. He turns back to how Simo used to be, unfit, unaccomplished, and unwilling to better himself. So, tip for your first ever event, do not set yourself a time. Your goal is to finish that event. Once you've finished, that is your building block. That time is what you're going to train to beat next time. Do yourself a favor. Don't set yourself a goal. When it comes to actually training, if this is your first event, keep in mind your goal is to finish. You want 80% or even more of your runs to be in your base zone 2 aerobic zone. You want to be running below, for me, I want to be running with my heart rate lower than 152. Max is 152. Goes above, I'm training my wrong system, and it's not going to help me finish the marathon. If all you're doing is track sessions, running fast, running hard, but running short, yeah, you'll be able to run fucking fast. But are you going to be able to run 21.1 kilometers or 42.2 kilometers? Or if you're American, 13.1 miles and 26.2 is your full, you know? Are you actually going to be able to finish it? You know, you might, but you're going to struggle a lot if all you're doing is fartlek intermittent sprints, walking for 25 minutes, doing another 200-meter sprint and walking. Like, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience running your first half marathon or full marathon. So you want 80% of your runs or even more to be easy. Focus on logging time on feet. Bring it back to basics. If you can run a kilometer, you can train up to finish a marathon. You can. Might take time, but you can. So when it comes to training, you want to be building a base. To build this base, you run easy. You log time on feet. You know, you want to be doing easy runs. Doing a long run once a week. Long run, if you're running a half marathon, your longest run may be up to 18 kilometers if you're fairly new to running. You know, if the longest you've run before your first half marathon is 18 kilometers, trust me, you will finish the half marathon. But obviously anything above 18 kilometers is no man's land, and it's kind of hard to judge how you will go. But to run a half marathon, your longest run in your training block probably only has to be about 15, 16, 18 kilometers max. You know, if you're a seasoned runner or you're running extensive kilometers in a week, your longest run can be a half marathon distance or further. But if you're new, this is your first event, take training for it easy. Learn what it takes to train for this type of event. You can push yourself later on. Focus on getting to the start line and getting to the finish line. If this is your first event, your goal is to get to the finish line in the best physical state you can be in, and then you want to get to that finish line. So focus on the easy running. Focus on building that base. Your longest run for the half marathon, probably only 18 Ks. You could get away with 15. If you're training for your first marathon, longest run, maybe 30, 32 kilometers within your training block. You can go that little bit more, but as long as you're building this base and you can get to sort of these distances, yes, the rest of the race beyond that will be no man's land and you don't know how your body will react. But as long as you've been consistently training and building this base, you will get to that finish line. And for your first event, as I said, that's your goal. Getting to the start line, getting to the finish line. So 80% minimum needs to be easy running. Now, if you're running 4 days a week, what does 80% look like? For my first half marathon, I was running 4 days a week. 2 easy runs, 1 long run, which was an easy run, and then 1 tempo session. The easy runs would range from 4 to 8 or 9 kilometers. The long run in the first week started at 8 kilometers, finished at 18 kilometers. And then the tempo run was always between 4 to 7 kilometers. And that was where I trained my faster running. And so that tempo run, which I was only doing once a week, would look like a little bit of a warm-up, so anywhere from 1 to 2 Ks. Then I'd do, 2 to 3 Ks at a faster pace. My so-called half marathon pace, which, I had a goal. So I had a half marathon pace and I struggled with that half marathon pace. So if it's your first event, to judge your half marathon pace, you probably want to try and run 1 to 2 minutes per kilometer quicker than your easy pace. So if your easy pace is 8 kilometers an hour, then your tempo blocks in your tempo run could probably be 6 to 7 minutes per kilometer. So yeah, you'd run 2-3 kilometers at tempo, then you do a cool down and you finish your run, or depending on the length of the run, you do like a rest period for maybe a kilometer where you jog or walk, sort of bring the body back down, and then you go for another tempo split at 6 to 7 kilometers for maybe 2 to 3 kilometers again. Then you cool down. Doing a session like that helps to train your body for running for longer at those quicker paces, which is how you're wanting to try and run your event, but it also helps train your body to clear the lactic acid out of your body faster. That's pretty much how I trained for my half marathon, my first half marathon, and my second half marathon. And that's very similar to how I trained for my full marathon. Only difference is my full marathon, I was doing 5 runs a week, which gave me that extra run. So I was doing 3 easy runs and 2 fast sessions. So that's sort of what the 80-20 rule looks like. But in all honesty, if you can only run 3 days a week and you're planning to run a half marathon or a marathon, I would recommend to just run easy. Focus on building that base, because that base is what's going to get you to the finish line. The tempo, the track sessions, the hill repeats, that's what's going to get you to the finish line faster. But it's your base aerobic running that's going to get you to the finish line. So focus on building that. If you've only got 3 runs and you're doing 2 easy runs, or you're doing 1 easy run, 1 long run, 1 fast run, then you're not putting in enough easy miles. You've got to tone it back a bit. There's the saying where you have to run slow to run fast. If I'm running easy now, 8 minutes per kilometer, and I just keep running, I'm running easy, keeping the heart rate low, in a month or 2, I'll be running 7 minutes a kilometer with my heart rate still in that easy zone. Another couple more months, I'll be running 6 minutes 30 per kilometer with my heart rate still in that easy zone. The more easy miles you log, the faster you can run with an easy heart rate. So never skimp on your easy runs. And if you're in between training blocks, if you're new to running and you're in between training blocks, you've just finished your half marathon, you've got a month or 2 before you start training for your next half marathon, or before you start training for your 10K, or before you start training for a full marathon, for those 2-3 months, if you're still new to running and building endurance base, make sure all your runs in that block are easy. The more easy runs you do, the quicker your body will adapt, the stronger your lungs will grow, the stronger your heart will grow, and the faster you can run with that lower heart rate. So focus on easy runs if you're training for your first event. Easy running is one of the best things you could do in your training block. Another thing is stay committed. I know it's a hard one. When you're deep into your training block, you don't want to wake up early, you don't want to go for that run in the middle of winter, but you don't get to the finish line without staying committed and enduring the process. It is a long process. The race does not start at the start line. The race starts when you pay your registration fee and when you start training. You will never regret a run that you do. But when you're 32 kilometers into that marathon and you're walking and struggling and questioning why you're doing this, in that moment is when you will regret on the 23rd of June snoozing that alarm and sleeping in. You will remember that day that you snoozed that alarm, and you'll remember the run that you missed. You won't remember that run in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. In the interim, in the short period, missing that run is not going to affect you until you're balls deep in that marathon and you're questioning why you snooze that alarm. That is when you will regret not sticking to the plan and not staying committed. If you need commitment, talk to your friends, talk to your family. If you're running an event with someone, then be each other's support system, each other's support network. Motivate each other and keep each other accountable. What I was doing leading up to my marathon, which I haven't done for this half marathon, but I was posting my runs on my social media for 2 reasons. That was to show you guys how I was training for my marathon, but it was also a way for me to keep myself motivated and stay committed. Every day I took a photo of my watch and uploaded it to Instagram. That was me ticking off a workout, ticking off a session. That was me staying committed to my journey and my process. Stay committed and keep each other accountable. Another pointer that I learned the other day, which if this is your first event, don't look at other people's Strava paces and be like, I'm running too slow. Am I good enough? 0.01% of people on this earth have run a marathon. If you're training for a marathon, or if you have run a marathon, whether you're Eliud Kipchoge and you've run it in 2 hours, or whether it takes you 24 hours to run a marathon, you are in the top 0.01% in the world. No one can ever take that away from you. Not everyone gets these medals, You don't get these medals for finishing first, finishing second, finishing third. These medals are a reward for the time, commitment, and pain you put your body through to get to that start line and to finish that race. That is a sign of your journey and the commitment and the mindset you have to train, start, and finish a marathon. Enjoy the process of training for your first event. I'm not going to lie to you, it will suck. There will be times where you're questioning why you're doing this. There will be times in the middle of a long run where you're struggling and you're thinking, I could have snoozed the alarm this morning and slept in. But you will feel better once you've finished that training run. And you'll feel accomplished for finishing that training run. And if you enjoy the process of training, starting, and finishing your event, stay committed, enjoy the process, and that will set you up for success and set you up for future successes as well. Training will be hard. It's not meant to be easy. But remember, if you can run 1 kilometer, you can definitely build up and accomplish anything you set your mind to. I woke up one morning feeling fat, unhealthy, unhappy with myself. At the time, I couldn't run 1 kilometer. I was playing 10 minutes a football match. I have since run a full marathon, and I will be training at the end of the year to run a 50k ultra. Stay committed, stay strong. Your mind is the biggest barrier you have. Through training, your body will adjust, your body will become stronger, and through training, you can train to accomplish whatever you want. The first hurdle you have is that mindset that says that you can't. Once you overcome that, you unlock and unleash the ability and the power to do whatever the fuck you want to do in your life. So, if you're training for a half marathon, full marathon, 10k, 5k, ultra, whatever you're training for, stay committed, train hard, and enjoy the process. As we wrap up, I would like to mention that if you are training for your first event, or if you're wanting to lose weight and learn how to run, and you want that little bit of extra help, a little bit of motivation, that little bit of guidance, reach out to me in my social media. Jump into my DMs on Facebook, Instagram. You can message on TikTok. Can you message on YouTube? I don't know, but if you can, reach out. Whether you're training for an event or wanting to get into running, I'm your guy. I am currently opening spots for run coaching and personal training. So if you want to change your life around, reach out to me. I am offering currently 2-week free trials for a limited amount of people. So reach out if you're interested, and we'll see what we can get done. And let's change your life around. I've definitely changed mine, flipped 180 degrees in these last 16 months, and I have never looked back. I'm definitely not the lightest I've ever been, but I am the fittest I've ever been. I'm not the happiest I've ever been, but that's a different story. Mental health is a real thing, guys. Especially for you men. Don't hide it. Talk to people, seek a counselor, talk to your GP if you need, talk to family, open up. People can only help you if they know what you're going through, so don't hide it. But yeah, fitness wise, I'm the healthiest and fittest I've ever been, and I'm only getting stronger. I'm only getting better. So if you would like to make a change like that in your life, reach out to me and let's work together. So once again, thanks for tuning in. This has been your host, Simon. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I hope you have a good week. And I will see you guys in a fortnight. Peace out. Love yous all. Until then, train hard.